In just hours, members of the House Judiciary Committee will begin opening statements as they begin debate on the 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump. Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Madeleine Dean. She is a member of that committee. Good morning, Congresswoman. Thanks so much for being here. I know it's a very busy day, and already pundits are predicting that this primetime process that will play out tonight is going to be a circus, given that every member of the judiciary will be able to say their piece. How do you predict it going?
Oh, I certainly hope not. I'm still working on my remarks, but I hope to speak from my heart and my oath about our constitutional generational duty. We have a duty to point out, call out the wrongdoing, uncategorical wrongdoing of this president. And so I hope members will take their remarks very, very seriously, because what we say in large measure will define who we are as congresspeople and as American citizens.
And so is that the gist of, I know you're working on your remarks, but is that the gist of your message, that you have a duty to do this?
I do think part of my message is a generational duty. I'm very mindful. I have new grandchildren. I have 3 grandchildren now, 2 just in the last 2 months. I'm very mindful that we're here for just a short period of time, but we must be caretakers and stewards of this place and of our oath and of our Constitution. And in the face of the extraordinary wrongdoing of this president, seeking for personal and political gain, interference in our elections, risking our national security, nothing could be more grave. And so I see these articles as very well written, and I have an obligation to uphold my oath and hold this president accountable.
Of course, there are also practical concerns. And we heard the president, he was in your home state of Pennsylvania last night at a rally, and he talked about what I think is probably a concern for many Democrats. I mean, we have the reporting that it is a concern for people in swing states. So listen to what he warned last night.
Any Democrat that votes for this sham will be voting to sacrifice their House majority, their dignity, and their career.
So what are Democrats privately telling you about their fears about voting for this?
I've heard very little talk of the political, very honestly. There is a certain gravity of this moment and of this week. And so what I have been just buoyed up by is every one of my colleagues talking about our obligation here. We're not talking about the next election for ourselves. We're talking about our country. We're talking about making sure we protect the next election, that there isn't foreign interference, that the president or a foreign leader doesn't get to put his or her hand on the scales. I'm not hearing political chatter, to be very honest. I was thinking about that last night. It's amazing how we are all stirred by the power of this Constitution, and we believe we must uphold it. It's a very precious thing, and it's in our hands right now.
And so given that, how many Democrats do you think will ultimately not vote for these 2 articles of impeachment?
I haven't done that count. I hope everyone is able to vote for these 2 articles of impeachment. They're very well crafted, and of course they couldn't be more serious. Abuse of power, using his office for a personal political gain, and then a categorical obstruction of a co-equal branch of government. It is not up to the president to determine whether or not our impeachment investigation fits his needs. We are a co-equal branch. We have the sole power of this last resort remedy that the framers made sure was part of our Constitution. It is not up to the administration. It is not up to the president's personal or political lawyers.
I don't suppose in these divided times you ever privately speak to Republicans about their feelings, do you?
Oh, I do, sure. I want to have those conversations. I want to try to build relationships and bridges. I've had the great opportunity to co-sponsor legislation that was actually signed by the president. So I do talk to my Republican colleagues in order to build consensus. And what I say is what I feel personally. It's up to them what they do. But what I feel personally is I have an obligation. I swore on January 3rd on a Bible that was my family Bible that I would uphold the Constitution of the United States. I just impress that upon my Republican colleagues. I hope and pray that they feel that same gravity, that we have to protect our Constitution. As Professor Gerhardt said, if these offenses are not impeachable, I don't know what is.
Let's talk about legislation and USMCA. Do you Tell us what you know about the timing of this, because lots of people were struck by the fact that within 1 hour, Nancy Pelosi announced these 2 articles of impeachment and then announced this bipartisan legislation, which many said gave President Trump a legislative win.
What I hope it is a win for the American public. And what it demonstrates is the dexterity of this Congress and the extraordinary leadership of Nancy Pelosi to be able to tackle this very grave issue of impeachment of a president, at the very same time putting together a sound trade deal. We've been talking about this and being briefed on it for months and months. I'm very proud of the committee chairs as well as the negotiators on this. This is a win for the American people, for our trade in the Americas and North America. So I'm very, very proud of us. It shows that we're doing exactly what we were sent here to do. We have to do it all. We have to investigate, we have to legislate, we have to litigate. We're doing this for the American public. So for those who worry that, oh, we're all hyper-focused on impeachment, no, we have to do both. We have to make sure that we push forward legislation and trade agreements that work for the American people. You've seen we've passed more than 400 bills here, most of them sitting dead on the Senate's side. We're going to keep working for the American people.
But in terms of the timing, what are you hearing? Is the plan to next week have a full vote on impeachment and vote after that on USMCA?
I haven't heard the details of the calendar. I know that's still in discussions, but I think that would be totally appropriate. It shows that we're upholding our constitutional obligations, and it shows that we're also working for the American people. Again, this isn't something that's snapped together. USMCA is not something that's snapped together in the night, and it shows really the confidence of our caucus and the negotiating power of our caucus. And there's no harm working with a president for the good of the American people.
All right, Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy and historic day.
Thanks for having me.